June 1940. Across Europe, millions of people watched in disbelief as one of the world's most powerful nations collapsed with astonishing speed. France was not a weak country. It had one of the largest armies in the world, thousands of tanks, modern aircraft, and a defensive system that many believed was impossible to break. Military experts expected any war between Germany and France to become a long and bloody struggle, similar to World War I. Yet within weeks, the French army was defeated, Paris was occupied, and France was forced to surrender. How could this happen? How did Germany accomplish what many thought was impossible? The answer involves bold strategy, technological innovation, surprise attacks, and a series of critical mistakes that completely changed the course of the Second World War. To understand Germany's victory, we must first understand France's mindset. The memory of World War I haunted an entire generation. Between 1914 and 1918, France had suffered millions of casualties during brutal trench warfare. Determined never to experience such devastation again, French leaders invested heavily in defense. Their greatest achievement was the Maginot Line, an enormous chain of fortresses, bunkers, artillery batteries, and underground tunnels stretching along much of the German border. The line represented years of construction and billions of francs in investment. French commanders believed these defenses would stop any German invasion long enough for France to mobilize its forces. The strategy seemed reasonable. Unfortunately, it assumed Germany would attack exactly where France expected. German military planners knew a direct assault on the Maginot Line would be costly and slow. Instead, they developed a bold alternative. The plan called for a major attack through Belgium and the Netherlands. This was not unusual. Germany had used a similar route during World War I. French commanders expected this move and prepared accordingly. However, hidden within the German plan was a far more dangerous operation. Germany's strongest armored divisions would advance through the Ardennes Forest, a heavily wooded region that French commanders considered unsuitable for large-scale tank operations. The French believed the terrain would naturally slow any attack. German General Erich von Manstein disagreed. He argued that the very fact France considered the Ardennes impassable made it the perfect place for a surprise attack. At dawn on May 10, 1940, Germany launched one of the most ambitious military offensives in history. Thousands of aircraft attacked enemy positions while German troops crossed multiple borders simultaneously. Paratroopers captured key bridges and strategic locations. The Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg suddenly found themselves under attack. As expected, French and British commanders reacted immediately. Believing Belgium was the main battlefield, they moved their best armies northward to confront the German advance. To Allied commanders, everything appeared to be unfolding exactly as predicted. But they did not realize they were responding to a carefully designed distraction. While Allied forces rushed north, Germany's most powerful armored units were moving through the Ardennes, heading toward a weakly defended section of the French front. The German advance through the Ardennes was an enormous gamble. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers and thousands of vehicles crowded narrow forest roads. If French aircraft had launched large-scale attacks against these congested columns, the offensive could have been delayed or even stopped. Yet the opportunity was missed. French commanders continued to believe the Ardennes could not support a major offensive. Reports from reconnaissance units were often ignored or underestimated. Meanwhile, German forces maintained remarkable momentum. Day and night, tanks and trucks moved through the forests. Within just a few days, German spearheads emerged from the Ardennes and approached the Meuse River near the town of Sedan. The moment of truth had arrived. On May 13th, German forces launched their assault at Sedan. The attack began with a massive aerial bombardment. Waves of dive bombers struck French positions, creating confusion and fear among defenders. Although the physical destruction was less severe than many imagined, the psychological impact was devastating. Under constant attack from the air, communication began to break down. Some units became isolated, while others received conflicting orders. German engineers quickly constructed temporary bridges across the Meuse River. Soon, tanks and infantry crossed to the western bank. French defenders fought bravely in many locations, but German forces concentrated overwhelming power at key points. By the end of the day, cracks had appeared in the French defenses. Within hours, those cracks became a breakthrough. Once German armor broke through at Sedan, the campaign entered a new phase. Instead of slowing down to secure every position, German commanders pushed forward relentlessly. Their goal was speed. German tank divisions advanced deeper into France, bypassing isolated pockets of resistance and leaving them for follow-up forces. Constant radio communication allowed commanders to adapt quickly to changing conditions. This flexibility gave Germany a major advantage over French forces, which often relied on slower methods of communication. The result was a style of warfare that became known as Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Within days, German armored columns were racing westward toward the English Channel, threatening to cut off entire Allied armies. As German forces reached the English Channel, the scale of the disaster became clear. Hundreds of thousands of British, French, and Belgian troops found themselves trapped in northern France. The German breakthrough had effectively split the Allied forces into separate groups, making coordinated defense nearly impossible. Commanders struggled to understand the rapidly changing situation. Roads became crowded with retreating troops and refugees. Supplies ran low, morale declined. Yet amid the chaos, one possibility remained. Allied forces could attempt a desperate evacuation from the coastal port of Dunkirk. The success of this operation would become one of the most remarkable stories of the war. Between late May and early June 1940, an extraordinary rescue operation unfolded at Dunkirk. Military vessels, fishing boats, ferries, and civilian craft crossed the English Channel to evacuate trapped troops. Against all odds, more than 330,000 soldiers escaped. The evacuation preserved much of Britain's army, but enormous quantities of equipment were abandoned. For France, the situation remained desperate. German forces continued advancing southward. French resistance persisted in many regions, but the strategic situation was hopeless. On June 14th, German troops entered Paris. The city that had symbolized French strength and culture now stood occupied by a foreign army. 4 days later, the French government requested an armistice. The fall of France was not the result of a single battle or a single mistake. It was the outcome of multiple factors working together. Germany combined speed, surprise, concentrated firepower, and effective communication to create opportunities that French commanders struggled to counter. The Maginot Line itself performed largely as intended, but Germany simply bypassed it. French leaders expected a war resembling World War I, while Germany embraced a new style of highly mobile warfare. The breakthrough at Sedan shattered the Allied defensive plan and created a chain reaction that proved impossible to stop. In just 6 weeks, Germany achieved one of the most dramatic military victories in modern history. The defeat of France transformed the balance of power in Europe, left Britain standing largely alone against Nazi Germany, and set the stage for some of the most important events of World War II. More than 80 years later, historians still study this campaign as a powerful lesson in strategy, innovation, and the consequences of underestimating an opponent. The Battle of France remains one of history's greatest military surprises. Was Germany's victory inevitable, or could France have stopped the invasion? The debate continues to this day. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more stories from history that changed the world forever.